Hello and welcome to part 2 of 3-part Solidworks tutorial series. If you missed part 1, then click here to check it. Now in this part of Solidworks video tutorial series, we'll learn everything about the basic 3D modeling tools. We'll start with the Extrude feature and then we'll talk about Revolve feature and creating section views. Later we'll talk about adding 3D fillets and chamfers and applying extruded cuts. Finally, we'll talk about making planes for construction, sweep feature and sweep cut feature. Now, if you want to explore full-length SolidWorks courses with more than 20 hours of video lessons from SolidWorks part modeling, assembly, drawing, rendering and more, backed by real-world projects and instructor support for Q&A, then check our SolidWorks course library on SourceCAD and start learning right now. Link is in the description of this video. Or you can also click here to go to SolidWorks course library page. Now you can enroll now for a very little subscription fee and you can cancel it anytime you want. So with that, let's get started. So here we'll once again start with the sketch environment. So I'll simply go to this new option and select part and OK. Now once again we are in the sketch environment, so let's start making a sketch. So go to sketch, select the sketch option and select a plane. I'll select front and I'll simply create a rectangle like that. And right inside this, I'll also create a circle, maybe at the center. Now, once you are done, you can exit the sketch environment to go to the 3D mode. So I'll press escape and now click here to exit the sketch environment. You can also click this option to exit the sketch mode. In this case, I'll click here. And now we are outside a sketch environment. As you can see, the sketch has turned gray, which indicates we are now in the 3D mode. So here you can go to Features tab, and on Features tab, we have all the tools related to converting this sketch into 3D. Now, the first tool that I'm going to be using here is Extrude. That's right here on the command manager. So select Extrude and select the sketch which you want to extrude. In this case, I'll select this rectangle. So any boundary of this rectangle is just fine. Select it and that's going to extrude it. Now, as you can see, it will completely ignore the circle, which is totally fine. We'll take care of that in a moment. But first, let's see what we have here in Extrude. So once you select Extrude, it will just add the 3D dimension to this. So it will add height to your existing sketch. And using this arrow, you can basically increase the size. So you can just move it here to move it in this side or to extrude it here, or you can move it here as well to just extrude it on the downward direction. Now we also have a ruler right next to this arrow. So if you select it and move your cursor on this ruler, you will be able to extrude it by the increments here. So you can just gradually move it, and now the ruler will move only by the increment of units here. If, however, you move it away from that, it will move it like that quite smoothly without following the ruler. Now once you are done, click OK and we have this 3D extruded feature. Now, once the extruded feature is created, the sketch is completely removed. Actually, it's not removed. SolidWorks simply hides the sketch. Now, if you want to use that circle or any other feature from that sketch, then you need to show it again, which you can do from the feature tree. So on the feature tree, now we have this boss extrude feature, which is added. And if you expand it, you will find the actual sketch as well, which is hidden. So select the sketch and click this eye option to just show it. And now the sketch is visible. So once it is visible, you can again use it and extrude it using this. Well, let's see how we can again use the same sketch. So I'll go to the extrude again, and now I'll select only the circle. And now this will let us extrude just the circle part. So by default, the height is exactly the same, but let's move it up. And now we have this extruded feature. So using single sketch, we managed to make 2 extrusions. Click OK. And we have a new feature here, boss extrude added, but this is also using the same sketch, sketch 1. And that's why we have this hand kind of icon, which indicates that same sketch is shared between these 2 extruded features. Now, if you want to remove any of these features, just select it, right click and select delete, and the feature will be removed. We are back to extrude. Now I'll select the boss extrude feature and I'll just delete this one too. And we are only left with the sketch. Now let's again see the extrude feature. So I'll go to extrude and now I'll select this sketch. But instead of now extruding this entire rectangle, I'll now extrude this common area, actually the area which is outside the circle but inside the rectangle. Only that area, that's the one which I want to extrude. Now for that, you can go to this selected contour option, right click and delete it. Just make it clean, and now we'll by default have that option selected. But if you have multiple regions, then you can now hover your cursor and select the region which you want to extrude. To understand this thing properly, maybe I'll add one more region here. And to do that, we need to go back to this sketch and edit it. So I'll select the sketch, and now once you select it, it will show you the edit sketch mode. You can select it, or you can right click on the sketch, and here also it will show the edit sketch. Select, and now we are in the editing mode of this sketch. So here we can basically make edits in this sketch again. So let's go to circle, and I'll add another circle, something like this. Press escape, and I think I should make it smaller, and I'll also move it right about here. So now as you can see, we have several areas here that we'll use. So exit out of this sketch mode, and once again, let's go to extrude. Select the boundary, but as you know, we don't want to use the boundary. So go to selected contours, right click and clear selection. Done. Now with that selection clear, you'll notice that we have option of selecting the boundaries. So I'll select this one, and maybe I'll just select this region. So now we'll end up with two extrusions, the one outside and this. We are not going to get these two extrusions. Of course, you can set the height as well. So you can move it using this arrow. You can add the height, or you can also add the height value precisely here. So right now it is 42. Let's make it 36. Press tab key. And once you are satisfied, click OK, and we have this extruded object. Of course, the sketch is still visible. So if you want to hide it, once again expand, go to sketch and click on this hide option. Now the sketch won't show up, and we only have the 3D object. Okay, let's see more examples related to extrude feature. Extrude feature happens to be one of the most important features in Solidworks, and that's why it's important that you understand this feature clearly. Now here I'll use a ready-made 3D drawing. Once again, you can download all the drawings used in this series from the link in description. Okay, so here I have a plane and this 3D object and another one here. Let's go to sketch, click on sketch tool, and let's make a sketch on this plane, plane number 1. Okay, I'll go to this rectangle and I'll just make it like so, and press escape key. And now we'll exit out of this. Here we are. So we've got the sketch right here. Now let's extrude it. So I'll go to feature and extrude and select this rectangle. Now when you select extrude, Solidworks will start directly from this sketch, but you can override that from this option. So currently sketch plane is selected. Let's go to the drop down and select surface, face or plane. And now you can select a different surface from where the sketch extrusion will start. So here maybe I'll just select this plane. And now even though the sketch is here, the extrusion will start from our selected plane. Now let's change that to vertex. And I'll now select this vertex. So here, even though we have the sketch right about here, the extrusion is starting from the vertex, which is here. Now in the previous example, it was quite difficult to understand what's going on. So I'll go to surface, face, plane again, and it may look like it is extruding it in this direction, but that's not the case. It is just starting extrusion from the green plane and going up to this. Now if you want to reverse the direction, you can go to direction option and click here, and that's going to reverse it. Now with the direction reversed, you can see what's going on. So even though the sketch is here, the extrusion is starting from our selected plane and going in this direction. You can change that to an offset value and specify a gap from where the extrusion will start. For example, 5 unit gap, and now the extrusion will start 5 unit above that sketch. To start it below that sketch, click on this offset, and now it will leave a gap of 5 unit from the extrusion and the sketch, and then it will start the extrusion. Now I'll change it back to the default option of a sketch plane so that it starts directly at the sketch plane. And with that, let's now go to this direction option here. So once you select direction, Solidworks will let you select the direction in which you can extrude this. So right now it is selected as blind, which means you can add a distance. So the distance is 10. Let's just make it 20, and it will let you extrude up to 20 unit or whatever the distance you want. To change the direction, simply click here, and now the extrusion will happen above that plane. So I want it below, so I'll click it again. Let's explore other options. So right underneath this, we have through all. Select this and it will extrude up to the last found plane, which is this one. So it's going to extrude up to the last object here in this particular direction. You can also select up to next, and that's going to extrude it only up to the next object. So right after this plane or this sketch, we have this plane, so it's going to extrude only up to that plane. Then we have up to vertex, where you can specify a vertex. So in this case, maybe I'll just select this vertex and it's going to extrude only up to that vertex. Then we have up to surface, and here you can select a surface, for example this one, and it's going to extrude only up to this slant surface. You can also select a different kind of surface like this one, and it's going to extrude here. Now I'll select offset from surface, and here it will add another option of offset. So here you can specify an offset distance, for example 5, and now it is creating extrusion up to this, but it will leave a gap of 5 unit because of this offset. You can click on reverse offset to move it beyond 5 unit with respect to that surface. So I'll just select reverse offset, and there we are. Then we have up to body. Now this will only work when you have several bodies. For example, in this case, we have two bodies, this and this. They're both separate. I want to extrude it up to this body. So I'll select this body, and there we are. It will extrude up to this second body. And then finally, we have a mid-plane option. Select it, and this will let you extrude it in both the directions. So this sketch will be at the mid-plane, and you can move it in one direction, and in the other one also it will move like so. We don't want that, so I'll go to blind option. Now we have an option of merging the result. When this is checked, you will end up with one single body. So this extrusion and this actual body, they'll merge into one single unit after the extrusion is done. If however you want to keep these two separate, you can keep this unchecked, and now they'll remain separate. I want to merge it, so I'll keep it checked. Now let's see what the draft option is. Click on draft, and now you can add a draft angle, for example 3, and there we are. We've got the draft angle added here. You can also add it outside. I'll keep it unchecked. Then we have direction 2. Now the direction 2 will let you control the second direction of extrusion independently. So select this and activate it. Now in the second direction, we can extrude it independently. So in the first direction, we can actually select any condition, for example, up to surface, and here we'll select the surface. And in the second direction, we'll use blind option and we'll add a distance. So in both the directions, we are extruding it using different parameters. I'll keep this one unchecked. And then we have thin feature. Using thin feature, well, you can make this kind of extrusion where we'll be able to add thickness. So maybe I'll add a thickness of 2 unit, press the tab key, and here we are, we've got the thin feature. You can also add it along the mid plane. Now we have 1 unit outside and 1 unit inside, like that. I'll just keep this one unchecked. And with that, I'll now click OK, and we have this extruded feature. Now let's talk about the revolve feature, and for that I'm going to use this drawing. Now here we have the revolve boss base feature, so select it and now select the sketch. So here I'll just select, well, axis of revolution, because as you can see, the sketch happens to be already selected, and that will show up here in the selected contours. So if it is not showing up, simply expand it and select the region which you want to use for revolve, which is this one, and now go to axis of revolution and select the axis. Now in this case, let's start with this axis, and this is the revolve feature. Now to understand this thing clearly, I will first click OK, and now I'll use a feature called section plane just to understand what's going on here. The section plane option is here. So go to section, and this will kind of slice your object through that plane. Now once sectioned, you will be able to see the inside view. So this was the sketch that we had, and we selected this line as the line for the revolve tool. So this sketch is basically revolving along that line to create this 3D feature, and that's revolve. So I'll just exit out of section view, and here I'll also move back to the sketch tool. So I'll press Ctrl Z just to go back to this. And now let's go to feature and revolve, and here I'll select this as the revolve axis, and now it is revolving it along a different axis. So we have this sketch which is revolving along this line. Now let's see what options we have. The first one is blind. Well, just like extrude, you can select up to vertex, surface, offset from surface, or mid plane. Maybe in this case, I'll select mid plane, and the angle is 360, but let's make it something smaller like 270 degrees and press tab key. Now we'll have 1/4 remaining. So it is going to extrude it in both the direction equally because of this mid plane, and the total angle from this to this is 3/4, that is 270 degrees, and we'll leave that 1/4. So you can just apply the angle value like that. I'll change it back to blind, and the angle is still 270 degree, but now we are getting this. So it is starting from this sketch, moving in anti-clockwise, and result is more or less the same, but instead of starting it from mid plane, it's now starting from the main plane. Here also you can add direction 2, and let's say in direction 2 we only want to add a 10 degree angle. So here from the sketch we have this 10 degree and then 270 here. Well, let's leave it. And then thin feature. Now here you can add a thickness, for example 1 unit, and now we'll have this kind of feature which has a completely hollow profile. So if you select this and click OK, you'll end up with something that looks like this. We have a completely hollow shape where this thickness is 1 unit, which we specified earlier. So that's how you can use the Revolve feature to make these kind of shapes. Now let's talk about one more feature, and that's called sweep. So for that, I'm going to use this drawing. Now using sweep feature, you can move one sketch on another path. Now let me show you using this example. The sweep feature is here, so I'll select it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'll create a pipe shape using circular profile. So we have two options, sketch profile and circular profile. Let's just select circular profile, and now we only have one option, that's selecting a path. Let's select this one as the path, and then we have this kind of pipe shape. Now, if you really want to make it a pipe shape, then you just need to create thin feature. Go to thin feature and add the thickness of pipe, which is 1 mm, and that's added here. If you want to make it thicker, you can add here the diameter of this pipe. So I'll just make it 20, and now we have this thick pipe. Again, the thickness of pipe is still 1. You can just make it 2 unit if you want, and there we are. We have got this sweep feature. Click OK. And that's the simple sweep. Now I'll press Ctrl Z to go back to this, and I'll start it again. So I'll go to sweep and I'll select this sketch, but this time I'm not using circular profile. Instead, I'm using sketch profile. So now I'll select this as the sketch profile, and then we have second option of selecting the path. Now the path happens to be this one, and now this will sweep this profile, the elliptical profile, along the path, and the result is like this. Here also you can make it thin feature if you want, and you can add a thickness value like that. I don't want to make it a thin feature, so I'll just uncheck this. Click OK. And here's the sweep feature. Now let's press Ctrl Z and see one more option related to sweep. So I'll go to sweep, and here I'll select this as the sketch profile and this one as path. Now I'll also use the guide curve. Now using guide curve, you can add directions and shapes. So go to guide curve and select this one as guide curve. Now the outer boundary is following that guide curve. If you want to add another guide curve for inner boundary, then select that too. And now the inner boundary will also follow that guide curve. Of course, there is a deviation here, and that's only because it won't follow the guide curve as is. Because in this case, the guide curve has really sharp corners, so it will try to follow it as closely as possible. So now with that, you can click OK, but before I do that, I'll uncheck this option, merge smooth faces. It's better if you uncheck it, and if you do that, it will follow not only the shape, but also the probability of getting a final output will increase. So here I'll click OK, and we have this kind of sweep shape. All right, so now that sweep tool is done, let's talk about adding planes. And creating plane is an important feature in Solidworks, and using this, you can actually make drawing on any surface. Now, to understand that, I'll close this drawing and I'll start the one which we used for Extrude tool. That's this one. Now here I'll also delete this last feature that we created, the boss extrude feature. And here, as you can see, we have this default plane created. Actually, this is a plane which we created just for creating this sketch. Now how we created this, let's see. So to make any plane, you need to go to this reference geometry option from feature command manager. Just go to reference geometry and select plane. Now select a reference. In this case, I'll just select this one, and we have a plane. All you need to do is specify an offset distance. It's set to 10. I'll make it 20, and then you can see where the plane is, 30 or whatever distance you want. It's going to make that plane parallel to the one you selected. Now there are also other options. For example, I'll again go to this plane option, and now I'll select this face, and now the plane is here. You can also select edges. So if I select an edge, for example, this one, in this case, it will use both the references that we selected, this as well as this edge, to create our plane. Well, that's not very useful. So I'll just exit out of this, and instead I'll now start the plane again, and now I'll select this edge, just this edge. And now we have a plane which is right along this edge. Now in this case, if you want to make your plane which is perpendicular to this edge, then you need to select the second reference, which can be this point. And there we are. So now the plane is perpendicular to this edge, and it is exactly at this point. So using these references, you can make your plane. And once the plane is made, you can click OK and start making sketches here. So you can just select this plane and then go to sketch and select the sketch tool, and there you can start making sketches. Now I accidentally selected this plane instead of this. So I'll exit out of this, and now I'll select this plane, the plane number 2, that's this, and I'll go to sketch tool. And there we are, we can start making sketches here. Now let's talk about another feature called fillet and chamfer. So for that, I'll exit out of this drawing and I'll open fillet and chamfer. Now using fillet, we can add rounded corners, and using chamfer, we can add straight corners. So let's see where the fillet tool is. So it's on feature tab. Right here we have fillet. If you click this arrow, you're going to see the chamfer tool as well. I'll select fillet. Now there are several options in fillet. Let's explore them one by one. Well, after selecting fillet, all you've got to do is select an edge. So maybe I'll start with this edge, and the fillet is added. So there is a preview. You can add the radius of fillet, whatever you want. By default, 10 is selected. I'll maybe make it 5 and press the tab key. Once you are satisfied, click OK, and the fillet is added. Now let's add again another fillet. So I'll go to fillet, and this time I'll add this edge in my selection. So I'll simply select this edge, and you'll notice that all the edges connected tangentially are selected. So this edge was tangent here, and then this again is tangent here. So all the 3 edges are selected, and that's because of this tangent propagation. So if the tangent propagation is selected, then it will select all the edges. If, however, you uncheck it, it will only select the edge that you have selected. In this case, I'll keep it checked and add a smaller radii of maybe 2 unit, and then click OK. And we have the fillet added here as well. Now let's explore other fillet options. So again, I'll go to fillet, and now we have this face fillet selected. And here, instead of selecting an edge, you can select the faces. For example, I'll select this face as the face number 1. I'll go to next face and select face number 2. Now we have filleted between these 2 faces. Again, you can add any radius value that you want for this. So here I'll add a radius of, let's say, 10 unit, which is quite big for this example. So I'll add it of 6 unit and click OK. And there we are, we've got the fillet. Now let's see one more fillet option here. And for that, I'm going to create a completely new drawing from scratch. So I'll go to sketch and I'll select a plane. Now, as you can see, when I started sketch, there is no plane visible. So I'll simply expand it here and I'll select a plane from this list. So maybe I'll select this top plane and rectangle tool, and let's add it like so. Exit out of this and extrude it. So go to feature, extruded boss base feature, and I'm just going to extrude this up like that and click OK, and we're done. Now I'll go to fillet again, and here I'll select this all round fillet. Now here I'll select the first face, then go to the second one, and then go to the third one and select this. And that's going to add this all round fillet. Now this is especially helpful for this kind of situation where you don't know this exact length, so it's not possible to add the radius value that will make it all round. So click OK, and the fillet is added. Now in a similar way, you can add chamfers. But before I do that, I'll delete all the new features we created, including this fillet 4. So I'll select that, and then I'll shift select this first feature, and all the features in between are now selected. I'll right click and select delete, and that's only going to delete all the features. So select yes to all, and all the new features are deleted. We also have this extra sketch that we can select and delete. Now the chamfer tool, as you can see, is here. So select it, and just like fillet, we can apply chamfer, but there are some options for chamfer. You can add angle distance, distance, corner chamfer. You can add the distance of chamfer directly, or you can add the offset face distance. So these are some of the options. In this case, I'll start with the distance chamfer. Now in this case, it will let you select the distance of chamfer, which is right here. So that's set to 6. Let's just make it 4 and tab key. Now select the edges or the faces. In this case, I'll select this edge, and the chamfer is applied. So the distance is 4 unit for both the sides. As the chamfer is symmetric, it will add it 4 unit on both the sides, but let's say you want to make one of the sides smaller, another one larger. In that case, you can go to the symmetric and make it asymmetric, and this will let you add two distances. First one is 4, as you can see here, and the second one is 10. You can change the value here if you want. I'll change it back to symmetric and click OK. Now let's see the corner chamfer. So I'll go to chamfer, and here we have an option of adding corner chamfer. It's especially helpful for these kind of corners. So I'll select only this corner edge and the chamfer is added. Add the distance, click OK, and that's the corner chamfer which is added. You can add this corner chamfer for this kind of corner too. So go to chamfer, select the corner option from here, then select the corner, click OK, and the corner chamfer is added. Now finally, let's talk about the extruded cut feature. Now for understanding extruded cut feature, we'll use this drawing to make geometries. So here I'll use this existing surface to make a sketch. So I'll just select this, and here it will automatically highlight this sketch feature. You can select it, or you can go to sketch and then select sketch option, and you can now make sketches here. So here I'll just select a circle and I'll make a circle right about here like that. Exit out of this. And now we can use this circle to cut this 3D object. Well, let's try that. So I'll go to feature and I'll select extruded cut feature. Now select the sketch, and there we have the cut feature. Now you can specify the blind distance, or you can use the methods that we used previously. In this case, maybe let's select through all, and that's going to make this complete cut. Click OK. And here we are, we've got this cut feature. So instead of making things, it's going to remove things from your drawing. In a similar way, you can use this to add different kind of cut features. For example, let's say we want to cut it along this edge, and for that we can use sweep. So I'll go to sweep cut, and now I'll use circular profile. All right, now add the diameter which you want. So in this case, I'll add a diameter of 3 unit, and now here I'll right click in this area and I'll select selection manager. Now this is a new thing that I'm introducing here, this selection manager, and we're doing that because if you try selecting an edge, Solidworks will just select that edge and it won't let you select anything else. So in order to select multiple edges, you need to use the selection manager. So I'll right click here, go to clear selection and right click, and I'll select this option, selection manager. This will let you select, well, multiple edges. So here we have the select group option where it will let you select more than one edge. Once you are done selecting it, click OK, and there we are. We've got multiple edges selected. Now with that, click OK, and we have the sweep cut. So that's how you can remove the features. So that's part 2. Click the video here to go to part 3 of this series where we'll discuss the advanced 3D modeling tools. I'll see you in the next part.